Good morning, everyone. This is Garrison Hardy here with the Moscow Report. We're launching a new sports segment here with the Moscow Report. This is something brand new for this show, and I'm joined by my co-host, Sam Christensen. Sam, this is exciting. Good to be with you.
Yeah, good to be with you too, Garrison. We're really excited to kick this thing off and bring more attention to local sports here in Moscow and try to do a better job of reporting.
Now, before we launch into what we're going to be covering as far as sports is concerned, I thought it might be good if we talk about our background in the world of football, because we're only going to be launching football to start things off, as we want to make sure that we bring good coverage to you guys. We're going to be covering the Logos Knights, the Moscow Bears, and the University of Idaho, the Idaho Vandals. And boy, did they have an exciting season. We'll get to that in a moment. But Sam, I thought we would open up talking about you and your experience in the gridiron.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Garrison, I come from a pretty big football family. So my dad played college ball. My uncles have had experience in the college world there as well. I have an older brother who's actually on the U of I Vandals team now. I was looking at following those same footsteps and ended up not going down that road, but have definitely come from a rich history of football for generations down, being a Midwesterner originally.
Kind of have to at that point.
Yeah, exactly. So grew up loving my Ohio State Buckeyes and enjoying football on every Saturday. Being able to come around as a family over that, and that passion has kind of carried with me as I've entered into adult years now, and have really fallen in love with our local sports programs here locally. And I couldn't be more than thrilled to be able to bring coverage and news and excitement about what's happening here locally. So.
Now, for the fans at home, what position did you play?
I was a right guard, left guard, and center. So really anywhere on the offensive line was where I was going to dominate and have fun. Love having my fingers in the dirt.
There you go. And as for me, I was a wide receiver tight end mix. So one of the guys who would run downfield and catch the ball. The Lord blessed me with some height on that one. So they just used that to their advantage, and I would run the good old post route right down the middle, and that would get me some touchdowns there. So that's kind of us and what we bring to the table when it comes to sports and our passion for sports. But now let's talk about the local teams here in the Moscow area, starting with the Moscow Bears. Now, I am also a broadcaster for idahosports.com, which I cover District 2 football here in the area. So Moscow has been a team that I've covered a couple times, and covered them a couple of times this past season. Unfortunately, Sam, they're kind of in rebuild mode as of right now. And you might have some insight on the Moscow Bears, as it sounds like know the Ellis family, a pretty prominent family for Moscow football.
Definitely. Yeah, back in the day, Coach Luther Ellis ended up moving here with his family to Idaho to bring his sons to go and play for the U of I Vandals when they were being recruited. Coach Petrino actually had gone down to them when they were based out of Utah, and essentially did a drive-by to try to talk his boys into coming up here to play for him. And after they came up and visited, Coach Petrino ended up offering Coach Ellis a position on the U of I sports staff, helping out coaching that defensive line. So they were there for a few years, and with that came his 12 children, who were all based out of Moscow. And so they really did bring some serious energy to both levels of sports, both college here at the University of Idaho, and then also with the Moscow Bears. So after the recent change in staff at the U of I, Coach Ellis left, and along with him went his family and his boys. So we've definitely felt that as a community, as the Ellis family has left and took a lot of talent they brought with their sons that were playing for the Bears, and we've definitely felt that here in this 2021 season.
Now, just for the fans at home, they've got some pretty prominent players, the Ellis family does. They've got a couple of NFL players and also one playing at the University of Utah. So we'll dive through that a little bit of where they're actually playing.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's actually two sons who are playing in the NFL right now. Actually, there may be three, as I think the third son ended up getting taken and signed a contract to the Panthers this past year. The most prominent of those sons is going to be Caden Ellis, who's actually a starting linebacker for the New Orleans Saints. So that's been quite some fun watching him on TV. And then as you may not know, but Luther Ellis actually played in the NFL for about 11 years at the Lions and in the Broncos.
So he may know some about football.
He may know a thing or two.
Now back to the Moscow Bears. This season they went 0-8 on the season. That is definitely some growth that is needing to be happening with that program. But Coach Rob Bafus and his staff have been upbeat about the whole thing, and they are looking forward to next year. Coach Bafus actually came from Troy, if I'm not mistaken. So that is kind of the picture of the Moscow Bears, and we look forward to covering them as this next season progresses. Now, the Logos Knights. We've got some ties personally with the Logos Knights here. I'm actually one of the basketball coaches for Logos. I am the JV head coach and under the varsity head coach Gabe Wrench for the girls side of things. But now for football, this has been an exciting past couple of years for the Logos Knights, as last year was the first year they launched into this league, the White Pine League here. And, there's been some bumps along the way, as is expected to be with a brand new program. This last season, they went 3-6, but they were an incredibly young team. So there were certainly some encouraging signs.
Absolutely. Yeah, with only one senior on your team, it's incredibly difficult to have a true ethos of leadership on your team that's going to be encouraging the young guys to come along right there. So it was a tough season for the Vandals, but definitely one that I think is going to prove valuable in the long run, giving them that experience as young guys get into play.
Now, one of the exciting games was Logos versus Lapwai, in which Logos defeated Lapwai 65-55, and quarterback Jack Driscoll actually coached him on the varsity basketball side the year prior. He threw for over, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was over 400, 500 yards in that game. And he was nominated as the player of the week in the area, and just incredible stats, something you would see in Madden, but nonetheless, an impressive game. So a lot of good things to build on for Logos as they move forward to next year. And take me through a little bit of the coaching staff with Logos. They've got some pretty good expertise on that sideline.
They absolutely do, and I think at the end of the day, when you look across the football staff and look at them on paper, it's pretty impressive. Several college football players you're seeing on that football staff, and several of them were even played at the Division I level, even here locally. So it's been fun. They're led by Coach Nick Holloway currently, with a few other coaches as assistants who have all played football at a high level and are bringing that expertise to the game in the way they're coaching their players. And guiding them there. Biggest takeaways, these kids truly have not grown up with a background in football, don't understand, they haven't watched football on Saturdays, they don't know how the game works. So it's been a ton of fun seeing this program with these young guys with zero knowledge base. I can imagine that to be a frustrating thing as a coach, but also a really fun challenge, and I'm sure a ton of growth that you can see rapidly. So
that's right. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Logos Knights continue to progress as we head into the 2023 season. It's crazy we're already talking about that right now. Time flies. But last but not least, we wanted to touch on the Idaho Vandals. Now, normally in the college football world, the Idaho Vandals have been an afterthought. I mean, years ago, this was a team that was the first ever FBS team to go backwards a division into the FCS division. So definitely there were some rough years, let's just say, for the Idaho Vandals. But now, with Coach Jason Eck, things seem to be turning in the right direction. What an incredible first season for Coach Eck. The Vandals go 7-5, and they go to the playoffs. They have close games against Washington State and Indiana. Take me through kind of your initial thoughts with Coach Eck and the Idaho Vandals in his first year.
Yeah, I would say for the players that have been on the team in the past, those are statistics you don't want to boast about before, when Coach Eck came into the situation, coming in from South Dakota State University, had actually led, as the offensive coordinator, had helped lead that team to the playoffs the past 8 years prior to coming to the Idaho Vandals. And I'm going to be honest, Garrison, all of us were really expecting them to have a rebuild year. This was not supposed to be anything impressive. Maybe a few fans in the Kibbe Dome just watching them get better and start to learn new systems and new programs. And I could really say, it seems that the Idaho Vandals really popped the top off of the Kibbe Dome this fall with an incredible season. Watching their play and their game, they seemed nothing but hungry and excited and really locked in. That coaching staff has done a phenomenal job, thanks to Coach Eck's leadership and the staff he's been able to bring in. Truly incredible.
Not only staff, you and I were talking before this show about the transfer portal and how they use that to their strength and benefit. You mentioned some of the players they were able to bring in through that portal. Who were the guys that really stuck out to you from that transfer portal?
Yeah, on the defensive side of things, bringing in Favai from the University of Notre Dame, we're able to bring him in, and he killed it this past season. Wears number 2. His nickname on the team is F2, and he truly does tear it up as a linebacker for them. And has been huge. And then also bringing in some pretty great players on the offensive side of things. Even have a running back coming in from the University of Southern California, with several other players trickled in between. And as soon as that coaching staff hit ground here in Moscow, they looked at the team, saw where they were weak, and hit the transfer portal hard to get people to fill some gaps last minute here.
I actually had the privilege of meeting Coach Eck at Bootsers here in town.
Really?
And let me tell you, Coach Eck, he's just he has the charisma that makes you believe in the direction that this program is going. The thing that really stuck out to me, my dad and I went to the Washington State versus University of Idaho game, and here we were thinking that the Cougs were just going to roll over the Vandals, and in typical fashion, that's kind of been the case with this 8-mile rivalry here,
as you'd expect.
That's right. And next thing we know, the Vandals are ahead. They come marching down the field and put up a touchdown just like that against what turned out to be a really good Washington State defense. And at one point before halftime, the Vandals used 3 timeouts in a row to ice the kicker as per the strategy. And the Coug crowd starts booing, and Coach Eck turns around and starts waving them on, saying, "Bring it on, bring it on!" And so anyways, when I talked to him at Bootsers, he's just a fun guy to talk to. And I think he's just really building a culture that the University of Idaho hasn't seen for some time. So unless you had anything to add, that's going to do it for us here with the Moscow Report Sports section. We wanted to talk to you about the Moscow Bears, the Logos Knights, and the University of Idaho. We're going to be covering football this season and bringing all the facts and figures to you from the gridiron, and we hope to see you guys there. So for Sam Christensen, I'm Garrison Hardy. Stay tuned, folks.